By that time, we already had a mess hall, an indoor place to eat so we wouldn't get rained on. And this captain comes over. We didn't have in that army, we didn't have, name tags or anything like that. But he asked Joel Kovitz. They pointed me out to him, and he came over. And he had I think it was a match cover of a bar. He said, "You're going to get a pass tonight, and I want you to meet me in the back of this bar. So report to your master sergeant and get a pass. It's already signed by this captain." So I got it, and I took the bus into Galveston. I went to the bar, sat down. And he said, "We're going to be dropping teams into Yugoslavia. And, but you'll have to go to school first. We need a German and Italian weapons expert to work with the Yugoslavian guerrillas." I figured what he's telling me is bullshit, because they weren't going to tell him exactly what was going to go on, but I figured it's better than dragging in a three-man carry the damn machine gun places where the Jeep couldn't go. I have no idea what he was doing, and I'd been in the Army long enough not to give a damn. Right. So, I remembered what happened at the submachine gun school. They gathered a bunch of us, and we were on a goddamn truck for 18 hours. They drove us all the way from, how was it? Fort Sill, Camp Wheeler, Georgia, all the way down to Texas. And they gave us a couple of cans of sea ration, but they were supposed to stop at different places and feed us, but the truck drivers were always getting lost. But fortunately, they were always stopping for piss calls, so whenever they'd stop, luckily it was in a town, I'd run in and get, if there was a cafeteria or a cafe open, I'd buy myself a hot meal, because I had no idea what the Army was going to do with me. And sometimes, it would take me a little longer to eat, and if the sergeant was hollering at me, I'd say I had a stomach problem, which meant I wanted to fill my stomach, The other thing I remember on that trip down was we had to turn all our weapons in. And we were never issued ammunition. But the minute we got down to the schoolhouse, it was the headquarters of this combat team, we put up our pup tents in what had been the football field or something of the school. They brought us cases of 1903 bolt-action rifles, soaked in cosmoline, and we had to clean them. Then they brought in cases of World War I helmets that had been in storage, I guess, since World War I, and they really smelled bad. That's a Springfield with World War I long bayonet and World War I style overcoat. We were supposed to be on regular alert. We never had foot lockers or anything like that. We only had these blue denim barracks bags, because we were a combat team and we were supposed to be on continuous alert. But since it was spread out over 14 miles of beach and on the roof of the Dow chemical plant, to look for Stuckers or zeros or whatever we were supposed to look out for. Now, at this stage of my life, I can look back on that particular period and realize that management in the Army at that point was pretty hysterical because Pearl Harbor, according to what we knew at that time, had come as a surprise. And nobody wanted to be surprised after Pearl Harbor. Everybody was covering their ass. Anyway, I wound up at Bethesda, Maryland. They had a weapons school. We had all kinds of weird instructors. We had a Russian major there who was continuously drunk, but who really knew his weapons. He was interested in the Thompson, and he borrowed one from somebody, and we traded information. I showed him what I knew about the Thompson, and he had a stamped out German submachine gun, a Schmeisser.
So what were some of the weapons that you learned?
We learned the bolt-action German rifle. We learned an air-cooled German machine gun. I don't remember the number of it. That had the metallic links, which I thought was very clever.
I just want to show this picture. This was a shot of you using the Thompson with the stock removed.
Oh, yeah.
And you said that you basically got that idea from a Schmeisser manual.
Yes. At the school where they were teaching us the Thompson, we were told that you could get a better spraying effect if you took the stock off and moved the back of the gun across your belly, because on full automatic, the Thompson had a pretty rapid rate of fire. That must have been the gun that was issued to me, because it had a Cutts compensator and a clip.
Cutts compensator was on the end of the barrel to
Yes.
keep the gun from rising?
Yeah, to keep it from rising. It didn't really have that much of a kick, because the 45 on such a heavy gun is pretty much absorbed if you're holding on to it and you're leaning into it. There was another rifle, I think it was Austrian, that had a rotary magazine, like our Savage rifle, hunting rifle. There were more damn oddball rifles. I think every European country had a different kind of rifle. The one gun that I was impressed with was a Russian one. It was an air-cooled machine gun that worked with a round pan like the Lewis gun. And it was very sloppily put together. But he said that in the wintertime in Russia it gets very cold, and different kinds of metal contract. And the gun would fire no matter what the temperature was. When I learned how to shoot the BAR, you really had to keep it clean. And the same thing with the Thompson. When our lieutenant was killed on my landing and I took his Thompson, I wound up with 3 toothbrushes just to keep the damn thing clean.
Back to the school, what ended up happening?
What happened was they also trucked us down to Benning. And we were supposed to make 3 jumps. We weren't allowed to talk to anybody. If we went to the PX, we had to go in a group with an officer or a staff sergeant that was part of this supposedly secret mission.
How many were you in the total group? Do you remember?
I never knew. We had a couple of rows of tents, but nobody wore insignia. Nobody told us anything. It's just that, you know, we do calisthenics and then we practice getting bruised. And we were issued the old beat-up Paratrooper clothes, you know, with the weird pockets and the zippers, yeah. We got jump boots. They were, of course, second-hand. We didn't get anything new because, I don't know why. In any event, we were supposed to become conditioned, I think the word was in those years. And we were riding around the back of trucks, and we had to jump off and make a roll, and then we had to jump off a platform, and then we had, they put harness on us, and they had this tower we climbed, and they had this rope that you had to hook the harness on, and you had to slide all the way down. Eventually, they had this old C-47 that didn't even have any door on the side, and we made the 3 jumps. We had a high-level jump, then we had a night jump, then we had a low-level jump, which scared the hell out of me because it looked like the ground was coming up instantly.
How old were you at this time?
I was in my late 20s.
So you were a lot older than most of the other guys.
Yeah, I was in good shape. Carrying that tripod, 63-pound tripod, besides my regular pack, everywhere we went along that 14 miles of beach, you had to be. But I ate well. I've got to say this. Cooks were lousy, but growing up in the Depression, you're not that fussy with food. And there was always plenty of the Army bread. And you know what Bob Ho said about Army bread? Eat 3 slices of Army bread, no more tossing, no more turning in your sleep. You just lay there. And sea rations were designed to sustain life, but not encourage it. We got a lot of stuff left over from World War I, but we didn't complain because there was nobody to complain to. We ate well in Fort Benning. We ate well in Bethesda, Maryland. We were still at Fort Benning when word came down that the mission was scrubbed. What happened was that the State Department didn't want to work with Tito because he was a communist. So they set us up with Mikhailovich, who the British said couldn't be trusted. Sure enough, we dropped 9 teams, and they disappeared. The radios, the weapons, the gold, everything just disappeared. We never heard from them. What the British told our government was that Mikhailovich was turning the men over to the Nazis and keeping everything but the radios. Radios were turned over to the Nazis too. So the mission was scrubbed. In those days, they had, your MOS number was on an IBM card that had holes in it. And because I belonged to a ski club which had a lot of German refugees in it, I could communicate with them. So I put down that I understood German. And there was a hole in my MOS card that said I could understand German, so the card was knocked out. And since at that time, my connection with the Army was called detached. It seemed no matter where I went, I was detached. This was in fairly late 1942. What they were doing in North Africa is they were sending the Africa Corps prisoners down to New Orleans and the empty Liberty ships that were delivering goods to the Operation Torch in North Africa. And they loaded them on these blacked out Pullman cars, and they leased 90 miles of desert from the Indians. It was an Indian reservation, and made a POW camp. They told the German POWs they escaped and the Indians caught them. The Indians would get $25 for each scalp that they brought in. And if it was a blonde scalp, they would get a $5 bonus. I don't know if they really believed it, but what some of the guys pulled in the POW camp, which Oklahoma was like full of horses, they dressed up like Indians with feathers and all kinds of war paint. And when the train pulled in, they attacked the train. And the MPs that were guarding the prisoners told all the prisoners to lie on the floor. They would protect them from the Indians. The couple of months I was in, nobody tried to escape. It was terrible terrain. I mean, it was real desert. They were supposed to work. I didn't know that. we got off the trucks. It was, I don't know, still dark. Must have been about 2, 3 in the morning. And we reported to the CQ, in charge of quarters. And he said, when Reveille comes, you go into the supply sergeant and he'll issue you a rifle, a bayonet, and a cartridge belt. And I saw Thompson. I said, can I get that? He said, are you qualified? I said, yes, I'm qualified. And he gave me the Thompson, a couple of 30-round clips and a couple of boxes of 45 calibers. And I checked it out, and it was in good condition. And I loaded the clips. And there I was, you know, everybody carried a canteen. And one of the POWs in the squad said, oh, we're supposed to go out into the field, and we can't come back until 4 o'clock. That's why they give us lunch. Well, they were out in the field, and they were playing something called scat, which is a card game of some kind. But it was interesting to see the way they marched out. They had marching songs that were really marching songs. And they marched all the way out, you know, to where we were assigned with marching songs.